I want you to do something with me right now. It takes 30 seconds. Put 2 fingers, not your thumb, on the inside of your opposite wrist, just below the base of the thumb. Press gently until you feel your pulse. Now do not count it, just listen to the rhythm. Is it steady, like a clock, or is it irregular with beats that come early, or pauses, or a pattern that keeps changing? Hold that thought because I am going to come back to it, and it may be the most valuable 30 seconds you spend this year. Most videos about circulation talk about the pipes, the arteries, the blood flow, the nitric oxide. I have made that video, and the pipes matter. Today I want to talk about the pump. Because your heart is a muscle with an electrical system, and both of those change after 60 in ways that food genuinely affects. The failures are different, the warning signs are different, and the dietary advice is not only different, it is sometimes the opposite. So I am going to give you 5 foods for the pump and the rhythm. And I am going to be very clear about who should not follow some of this. Because for one group of people, advice that helps most viewers is dangerous. Let me explain what changes with age. Your heart has its own natural pacemaker, a cluster of specialized cells called the sinus node. With age, those cells are gradually lost and replaced with fibrous tissue. The upper chambers, the atria, also stretch and stiffen over decades, particularly if blood pressure has been high. Stretched, scarred atrial tissue conducts electricity unpredictably. That is the setup for atrial fibrillation, where the upper chambers quiver rather than contract properly. At the same time, the heart muscle itself stiffens. It still squeezes well, but it fills less easily between beats. That is why a stiff heart can produce breathlessness even when the pumping strength looks normal on a scan. Now the foods. Number 1 is potassium-rich food. And this is the one with the important caveat. Potassium and sodium together govern the electrical charge across every heart cell membrane. That charge is what allows the cell to fire in a coordinated rhythm. Low potassium makes the heart electrically irritable and is a well-recognized trigger for arrhythmias. Bananas, potatoes, beans, spinach, avocado, and oranges are all good sources. But here is who must not do this without asking. If you have chronic kidney disease or take an ACE inhibitor, an ARB, or a potassium-sparing diuretic like spironolactone, your body may already struggle to clear potassium. In that situation, deliberately loading up on it can cause dangerously high levels and a life-threatening rhythm disturbance. The same applies to potassium-based salt substitutes. So this is the food group where the right answer genuinely depends on your kidney function and your medication list. Ask before you change anything. Number 2 is magnesium-rich food. Nuts, seeds, leafy greens, whole grains, legumes, and dark chocolate. Magnesium works alongside potassium in cardiac cell electrical stability, and low magnesium is associated with palpitations and arrhythmia. It also happens to be depleted by common medications, including certain diuretics and long-term acid-reducing drugs called proton pump inhibitors. I mention that because a great many older adults take a proton pump inhibitor for years without ever having magnesium checked. If you take one long-term, that is a reasonable blood test to ask about. Number 3 is fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring. The evidence for eating fish and cardiovascular outcomes is reasonably good. Now, I want to give you the honest complication because it is specific to rhythm. Several trials of high-dose purified omega-3 supplements found an increased incidence of atrial fibrillation compared with placebo. That signal appeared with concentrated supplements at high doses, not with eating fish. So I am comfortable telling you to eat fish 2 or 3 times a week. I am considerably more cautious about someone deciding on their own to take a high-dose fish oil capsule, particularly if they already have a rhythm problem. That is a decision for your cardiologist, not a shelf. Number 4 is beets and leafy greens. I have covered the nitric oxide pathway in detail elsewhere, so I will keep this short. Dietary nitrate improves blood vessel relaxation and lowers blood pressure, and the effect is larger in older adults. For the pump specifically, this matters because lowering blood pressure reduces the workload your heart pumps against. That afterload reduction is one of the most direct ways diet supports a stiff or weakened heart. Number 5, and this one is a subtraction rather than an addition, alcohol. And the evidence here is stronger than most people realize. In 2020, a randomized controlled trial was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. 140 regular drinkers with atrial fibrillation were randomly assigned either to abstain from alcohol or to continue as usual. The abstinence group cut their intake from about 17 drinks a week to 2. Over 6 months, atrial fibrillation recurred in 53% of the abstinence group, compared with 73% of the control group. Time spent in atrial fibrillation was significantly lower. Hospital admissions for atrial fibrillation were 9% versus 20%, and their symptoms were better. That is a randomized trial showing that one dietary change cut hospital admissions for this condition by more than half. I do not know of a supplement with evidence like that. Now, in fairness, those participants were fairly heavy drinkers at baseline, and the trial cannot tell us whether one glass of wine a week matters. But if you have atrial fibrillation and you drink regularly, this is the single highest value conversation to have with your doctor. If this is useful to you, tell me in the comments whether your pulse felt steady when you checked it. I read them. Now, back to your wrist. Atrial fibrillation is the most common sustained heart rhythm disturbance, and its prevalence rises sharply with age. Here's why it matters so much. When the upper chambers quiver instead of contracting, blood can pool and form a clot. If that clot travels to the brain, it causes a stroke. Strokes caused by atrial fibrillation tend to be larger and more disabling than other strokes. And here's the part that keeps cardiologists up at night. A substantial number of people with atrial fibrillation have no symptoms at all. The first sign is the stroke. That is why the pulse check matters. It is free, it takes 30 seconds, and an irregular pulse is worth an appointment and an EKG. Not a panic, an appointment. Extra beats and brief skipped beats are extremely common and usually harmless, but a persistently irregular pulse deserves a proper look, because if it is atrial fibrillation, treatment to prevent stroke is highly effective and widely available. Many home blood pressure monitors now flag an irregular heartbeat, and some smartwatches do as well. Those are screening tools, not diagnoses, but they are a reasonable reason to make a call. Now, the signs of the other problem, which is the pump weakening. Heart failure is often missed in older adults because the symptoms get blamed on age. Breathlessness with activities you used to manage comfortably. Waking at night short of breath. Needing more pillows to sleep comfortably, or only being able to sleep upright. Swelling in both ankles and legs that worsens through the day. And the one most people do not know. A sudden weight gain of 2 to 3 pounds in a day or 5 pounds in a week is fluid, not fat. For someone with known heart failure, that is often the earliest warning of decompensation, and catching it early can prevent a hospital admission. Daily weights are a standard part of heart failure management for exactly that reason. Now, the emergencies: chest pressure, tightness, or heaviness, particularly with exertion, and particularly if it spreads to the arm, jaw, neck, or back. Please know that women and people with diabetes and older adults frequently present differently with breathlessness, nausea, sweating, or profound fatigue rather than classic chest pain. Fainting or nearly fainting, especially without warning. A racing heart with lightheadedness or chest pain. And sudden severe breathlessness. Those are calls for emergency services, not for a food list. 3 honest statements before I close. Food supports heart rhythm and function, and it does not treat established arrhythmia or heart failure. The potassium advice in this video is genuinely unsafe for some people, which is why I gave it the caveat rather than a footnote. And this video is education, not medical advice. I'm a physician, but I am not your physician. Here is what I would leave you with. Blood pressure control does more for your heart's rhythm and structure than every food on this list combined, because it is high pressure over decades that stretches and scars the atria in the first place. Sleep apnea is a major and badly underdiagnosed driver of atrial fibrillation, and treating it changes outcomes. Alcohol has trial evidence behind it, and the fish in the greens are worth eating. But the 30 seconds you spent on your wrist at the start of this video may be worth more than all of it. Tell me in the comments whether you have ever had anyone check your pulse for rhythm rather than just counting the rate. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.